what is Ehd-e-Alast?
See, in the Quran, in Surah Araf, we get to know this fact that before sending us into this world, the Almighty took a pledge from all the souls that were later to be sent into this world. And that pledge was that He is Lord Almighty, and the fact that no one should say on the Day of Judgment that they were not aware of a God, and ultimately present this as a pretext. So what the Almighty did was, He has narrated this whole incident in the Quran, that before creating mankind, He brought all the souls together and He took a pledge for them that, am I not your Lord? Which means, Alastu bi Rabbikum, the Quranic words. And the words Alastu bi Rabbikum, which means, am I not your Lord? They are called the pledge of Alast, or the first. Alast means at the very beginning. So it was the first pledge that the Almighty took from us. And we don't remember giving this pledge to Him. The memory of this incident has been erased from our imagination. We don't remember this, but we tend to know that we have a Lord, we have a God, because of the fact when we open our eyes in this world, we find ourselves to be created. We find this world to be a creation of some bigger design, of some bigger being. And so what happens is that we start connecting ourselves to some creator. And that Ehd-e-Alast, or the pledge of Alast, actually makes us reminds us of the fact that we gave this pledge to the Almighty, although we don't remember that pledge. But what happens is that our own surroundings, they testify to the fact that yes, there is a Lord, and yes, we might have made this pledge, and perhaps this is our own test. So before sending every soul into this world, this pledge was taken from that soul, and much as we can see that a young boy or an infant, when he comes out of his or her mother's womb, I mean, he would not remember that incident. That incident has no memory in himself. But when people or his surroundings or his relations, they remind him that this is your mother, although you've never seen yourself coming out of your mother, but such is the spontaneity and such is the correctness of this thing that you immediately leap towards it and you regard that person to be your mother. So on a very similar scale, you find that although you've not seen yourself or you don't remember yourself giving that pledge to God, but when you wake up in this world and your surroundings and your parents and all the phenomena of this world remind you that there is a Lord, you immediately leap for that. So it is that leap that we have in our own intuition, and the reason that the Almighty has made this very incumbent upon us, He has mentioned this in the Quran, again is out of His mercy, that He left us not in the lurch. He left us with a position in which we could easily identify Himself, and therefore not present this excuse on the Day of Judgment that we don't know Him. So basically, it is effectively like saying that the awareness of a Creator is intuitively found in us, and that whole incident which took place before our birth has its roots in our intuition, and we intuitively know the fact that there is someone who has created us. And when we reach or when we come before Him on the Day of Judgment, we cannot present this excuse to Him that, well, I don't know whether I had a Lord or not. So we would be immediately reminded of the fact that we were the ones who, before even arriving in this world, had made this commitment.
So unlike atheistic narrative where they say that the idea of God has been created by human mind or fear, you're saying that idea of God has its roots in this incident.
Absolutely. And as I said, this incident has made our own intuition so much aware. Well, if I elaborate a little more, you see, there are certain truths which have been placed in our cells even before our birth, at the time of birth. And that is what we can effectively call as innate guidance. So we have revealed guidance, which is guidance sent from God. But before that guidance, the Almighty has equipped us by birth with innate guidance. And I would point out two areas of that innate guidance which are very explicitly mentioned in the Quran. One of them is this conception of God that we automatically have. All of us, when we wake up in this world, we do feel that there's someone who's looking after us, someone even more affectionate than the parents, someone who's closer to us than our own life vein, someone who has this ability to give us assurance. So this is one concept that we find ingrained in our intuition, and I would say this is one of the institutes of innate guidance. And the other one is the awareness of good and evil. So all of us are born in this world with that awareness. It's not that we come we become aware of good and evil when we come into this world. No, it's by birth. So these are the two concepts which the Almighty has ingrained in ourselves. And precisely for this reason, it says that even if no wahi or no divine revelation reaches you, a person will be held accountable on the basis of these two concepts because they are part of our innate guidance. So if revealed guidance never reached us, we will be held accountable on the basis of this innate guidance.
And people also ask that, I didn't pick to be born, and I never opted to get into this test. So is this also related to Ehd-e-Alast, or the answer to this?
Well, actually it is in one way, because in Surah Ahzab, right at the end, it seems that the Almighty asked us, before creating us, that would you like to come into this world? Is it something that you'd like to go through? And we know that from the Quran that the mountains and the earth, they replied in the negative. And we know that the Quran says that human beings accepted this challenge. And the Quran says that the reason for accepting this challenge was zaluman jahula, because they are people who are overcome by emotions, who, if presented with a stark target, with a very steep target, they leap towards it. So they were given this option that would you like to come and be created in this world? Again, this is something which we don't remember. So it is much like the pledge of Alast. But the Quran tells us that each one of us was asked. So this argument which people put forward, that we were never asked, it's something which was against our own desire. We never desired to come into this world. The Quran negates it. It tells us that all of us actually wanted life. Life is something that all of us relish. All of us would have the opportunity to express our freedom. You see, everyone who is given this opportunity to express his freedom, her freedom, through one's own will, one's own desire, it's a big boon, it's a big blessing. And we were given this opportunity, we were asked this question, and we fell for it. So the Quran is absolutely clear that it is not that this whole creation incident took place without our consent. It was our consent which was taken, and we gave it wholeheartedly. And you can see from the same verses of Surah Ahzab that there were some other creations of God who did not give their consent. The mountains and the earth, this consent was asked from them as well. And they said, no, we cannot bear this. And human beings, they just leapt for it.
So why can't we remember everything, remember all this? Why did God made us forget everything?
The primary reason, I would say, would be that this world has been created for a trial and test. And had this been an incident which would have been in our memories, there would have been no trial. We would have seen God, we would have conversed with Him, and coming into this world and knowing the fact that He is going to take us or hold us accountable for certain things, that would have been a piece of cake for us. It would have been peanuts for us. So what happens is that the Almighty erased this memory from us, so that although there are indications, although there are signs which point towards it, but the real test is whether a person has that curiosity, has that urge to link that inner urge with the outer world. And if it is there, you're bound to meet God, you're bound to experience God. So the Almighty wanted us to experience Him without seeing Him. And that is the real test. And that is why, believing something while seeing it is the easiest of tasks. It is only when you believe something through signs, through proofs, without actually asking that thing to be seen, that would actually tell us, or it would signal this fact that we are cognizant human beings. We are human beings who would like to go through this test out of our own and would like to succeed or act otherwise out of our own free will. So this is another thing, that if we end up in hellfire at the end of the day, in the hereafter, the Quran tells us that we'll admit this. And there are so many instances in the Quran in which there will be this self-admission from people who will end up in hell, and they'll say, yes, we deserve this fate. Yes, we were responsible for our own doom.
So when we tell people this argument, they often say, okay, even if we knew that God existed, they give the example of Iblis. They said that he saw God and he knew everything, but he still disobeyed.
Right.
So, what is the significance of forgetting everything when you can still...
So, you see, this is such an important thing that you've pointed out, that even after seeing God, there are certain other emotions, certain other feelings. If they come into play, they make you deny what is the obvious. And one of those things is arrogance. which is called istikbar by the Quran. It means that you regard yourself to be superior. And this is the reason which led Satan, or Iblis, the Quranic name of Satan, deny God. I mean, not deny God, but the fact that he asked for a respite from the Almighty until the day of judgment. He knew that he would be doomed. So he said that, well, if I'm going to be doomed, then I'm going to lead rest of mankind astray. So yes, it is, it's not a guarantee that if something is erased from your memory and it will become a test or not, because at times, as you rightly said, if you see something and you still, in spite of that, you still deny or you remain in denial, one of the very strongest reasons is that arrogance. And this incident, as a matter of fact, tells us that one of the strongest tests which will come our way would be through arrogance. So we need to check ourselves. So this gives us this whole new light that one of the things that we need to check every day in ourselves is this arrogance, because at times it is very blatant, at times it is very subtle, but it has its role in our doom, so to speak. So this arrogance is something which led Satan astray in spite of conversing with God, and this is something which can happen even today. So this is like telling us that this is the most important area in which we need to guard ourselves. And look what has happened in history. You see, people have denied their prophets. People have denied the last prophet out of arrogance. But the Quran explicitly says that the Jews of the times of the prophet, they did not accept this fact that a prophet is to come from their own, from the progeny of their cousins, the Ishmaelites. And the Quran says, hasadam min indi anfusihim. Because of jealousy and arrogance, they just did not bear it. So it's like instructing us that one of the emotions that we need to keep in check is this emotion of arrogance and jealousy.